Hi there, Evan here with Crypto and Markets for Saturday, March 31st, 2018. The yield curve, oh, the Canadian yield curve. No one else in the mainstream business media, or really here on YouTube to be honest, wants to talk about it. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and discuss today. It hit 30 basis points on Thursday. Of course, for those of you that don't know, it's the difference between the 2-year government bond yield and the 10-year government bond yield. Effectively tells you how much the banks are making off their loans. That's the significance behind it. And the last time the yield curve was at 30 basis points in the descending channel that it's been really since 2009, early 2006. Of course, what happened after that point? It led into 2007, 2008, the Great Recession. Of course, with the U.S. subprime crisis in the U.S. One thing about that no one ever talks about, if you look at the debt to household income at that time in both Canada and the U.S., they were both right around the same. So if the Canadian government didn't prop a whole bunch of money into the banks to keep the debt bubble going, the same thing would have happened here too, by the way. Google it if you want. Call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't care. Go ahead and look it up for yourself. It was the same thing. And when we propped it up, that ratio just kept going up. The debt bubble kept being propped up. The rate cuts in 2015 again accelerated it to where we are now. Now, why did I go ahead and mention this? Of course, in that buildup of credit, by the way, just letting you know, fourth quarter 2017, total debt to household income ratio will come out at some point this week. I'll go ahead and do a video on that when it does come out. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the previous number, Q3 2017. That number stood at 171%. Now, of course, this isn't just mortgages like I've said. That's car loans, that's credit cards, home equity lines, that's personal loans, lines of credit, that's all debt. Now, of course, what cities is this debt to household income ratio, the highest? Toronto and Vancouver. And as I said in previous videos, in fact, Toronto's already started to fall on the detached side. The condos are still about flat, so we haven't seen that yet. Of course, in Vancouver, condos have been through the roof, so again, until we get more supply out there in Vancouver, which I think will happen by the end of the year, by the way, that segment of the market at least is going to keep going up, stay in multiple offers, as Steve Saretsky has mentioned in his weekly videos, so I've done previous videos on that. That's where I stand there. But really, if we lose these two cities, the rest of Canada is going to fall. Now, why did I mention the U.S. beforehand? The first areas to fall in the U.S. in 2006, 2007 were Florida, Arizona, Nevada, and California. And what happens is, when the big areas fall, the banks then have to pull capital from elsewhere to keep these markets from collapsing the entire system. And the same thing's going to happen here. When Toronto and Vancouver ultimately fall, they're going to have to pull money out of those markets. And by the way, they're what? The two combined are what? About almost half of the housing market? So you pull money out of out of other markets to at least try and keep it contained. Again, once you get to that, as we all know, it's not contained. So I don't need to beat that dead horse enough. But anyhow, the same thing happened in the U.S. 2006, 2007 with the big markets. is going to happen here in 2018 with Toronto and Vancouver. Of course, when all that happened in the US, similar trail to what happened here with the central bank. The Federal Reserve hiked rates too far, led to an inversion of the yield curve, and then down went the entire financial system. And with the way it's going in Canada, the Bank of Canada, of course, did the rate cuts in 2015, and then are now trying to overcompensate for that, for the acceleration and the buildup of credit we've had since then, which is where we stand right now. And of course, by the end of the year, with the lack of growth we now have in Canada. In fact, did you see the Q4 GDP number? Have you seen the economic data that's come out recently? Again, the slowdown now is really starting to accelerate. In fact, if you look at the retail sales numbers, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, the retail sales is going to be the harbinger for the downturn in the Canadian economy. And now you've started to see that. Again, with this massive slowdown in loan origination in the last 3 months, the credit system's starting to tighten up now because of that yield curve. As I mentioned earlier in the video, people can't borrow now against their homes to go ahead and put that money out into the real economy. So to go ahead and put it in closing, keep an eye on the Canadian yield curve, and secondarily as well, keep an eye on retail sales. The more that margin comes in, the closer we lead to the inevitable inversion. That's when the real financial crisis is going to happen in Canada. I'll go ahead and leave it here. If you like what you heard, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe. Y'all take care, everybody. Have a good day.